back to 1972, and I'd finished graduate school and looking for a job. And through a process of the job search, I went to work for Knoxville Personnel Agency, just temporary. I was going to teach sociology, psychology, whatever, but that didn't work out. And a lady that worked at the agency was looking for a big brother for her son and couldn't find anybody at the office. And so she was complaining, and she learned that Knoxville Personnel Agency had hired a director, and he had stayed about 3 weeks and said there was no money to be had in Knoxville for big brothers. And he quit. And so she said, I'm going to get with those people. And she had the paperwork from them having hired through Knoxville Personnel this guy that came for such a short time. And so she got with Bo Schaefer, and we met at the Admiral Benbow Inn, which was in the middle of Malfunction Junction. Remember that, Heidi? Mm-hmm. And we met for breakfast one morning, and Martin, and we'll have to check with Gordan and see if he was there, and maybe Dr. Andy Spiva, who was at the university. We all met for breakfast, and they offered me the job shortly thereafter, which was fun and a good thing. And then they told me what the finances were, that there were $328.58, according to Bo. Might have been a little less than that. But anyway, and they had used the money to start Big Brother's last Miss UT beauty pageant in 1970. And they raised about $12,000. And they had taken that money and hired some part-time people. There were 2 part-time people. And then they had paid a fee to find this guy. And so the money was down to the $328.58 or whatever. And so anyway, my immediate charge was to raise money to get this going, and found that we were in a free office space, which was above Polly's on Church Street. Yeah. And there was a lady who was a volunteer, and her name was Blanche Dinwiddie. She's deceased now. And she met me the first day, and she said, I will help you. And so Blanche was there with me, and as winter came on, we knew we didn't have any hot water in the bathroom. But then we found out we didn't have any heat either. And so I thought, well, gosh, we got to find something else. So Gordan and Bo and everybody, we moved. And then there came a time that I said, you know, we can't just serve boys, that we've got to be more inclusive. Heidi, you're on.
And we met Bill and his soon-to-be wife, mm-hmm. Jeannie, with Akima Cabaret, because as everyone knows, Bill and Jeannie are both very good vocalists, whatever.
Word at a time.
And so that's how he knew Akima, whatever. And so mm-hmm. Akima asked 2 of us to look into setting up the Big Sisters program with Big Brothers. And that other person was Jeanette Rose. So the 2 of us worked together on that and did get that portion set up. And as Bill has been helpful in reminding me what all Akima did, we did agree to helping out at the office.
Sure.
And that would include answering the phone, and it also included at that time, and I don't know if that's still the case, I would assume not, we would do the interviews on
the background checks.
And there were always 3 background checks, and everybody was sort of told and mm-hmm. discussed beforehand about what questions you could ask and what you could not ask. And at that time, we could ask more than we can ask now. But anyway, so we did, and then we did some fundraising. I think we did picnics for the Bigs and Little Sisters, whatever. And that's how I became involved.
You can only do this for so long, because you know you're kind of out there all the time asking for money and support or this or that. You know, when you call somebody, they say, well, what do you want today? And so, you know, that wears on you eventually. And so every director that's followed my days, you know, I've said to them, you'll come to this point, and I just hope it's a long time out, and don't ever give up. And if you ever think it's going to go under, which we had some critical days after I was there, don't give up. There's a group that will come in and help figure out some way forward. And so I've always tried to write a note or something and get together in the early days of anyone's tenure and say, you know, this is what it took to get this started. And, you know, it took a bevy of people and a bevy of support. And so I'm so proud of all the people who have supported Big Brothers Big Sisters through the years, and appreciate the continuing support of the board in making this happen, and never giving up on a simple idea. It seems very simple, you know, that every kid needs an adult in their life who cares for them and who is special to them. And
I'll start with Bill.
Oh.
First of all, there would not be. I question if there would be a Big Brothers Big Sisters, especially from what you're saying. And it's your energy level that has always been there, with a can-do attitude, whatever. And I would say this even more so. I ran into someone at the park that has a dog, and somehow we started talking about people. And she remembers you, as does her husband, from college, and even to what you did first when you came out of college. And so I would say very definitely, without Bill Tapp, I would question if Big Brothers Big Sisters, even with all of the support that they had from people like Gordan, whom you were going to be talking to, I would question if it would be here.
And then I needed a woman to be the champion for the girls, and that was Heidi. And she rose to the occasion, and has been one of our dearest friends all of our lives. It seems like all of our lives. But she picked up the mantle and was an influencer. And I think in any kind of nonprofit world, you've got to have people who are not on staff to serve as influencers.
But anyway, this guy, we've been together as a result on a few different things, and your wife, Jeannie, whatever, so.
We did St. Jude's. Heidi was chairman of that. Heidi got the first tribute to women from the YMCA.
No.
YWCA.
No, that's because of everybody else.
That was
Anyway.
a neat honor. But it's different. And you know, when I was there, the most staff we ever had was 5 of us. And I think today the staff is probably 18 or so.
More than 20.
More than
Wow.
20. And we were all, when Brent asked about this, I said, what's my first memory of Big Brothers Big Sisters? Moving. You know, we were there over Polly's on Church Street, then we moved to Clinch, then we finally moved to Fifth Avenue. And but every time we'd move, as long as United American Bank had a print shop, we got new cards, we got new stationery, but we've always kept the same phone number, 523-2179. It's still the same phone number that I got, or that was there at the office above Polly's when we started. So there's a thread of continuity in that. So I think that having that continuity has served us well. Thank you from both of us.
And
right,
thank you.
Heidi? And
Yes.
thank you from both of us.
Heidi, thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Thank you. Thank all
thank
y'all
you.
for showing up. And, you know, we've got
Right.
people who were involved from the very beginning. And when we're live with you, I will say something about them being there. Our first employees, first 2 employees. Yeah, great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
I'll tell you the way I remember getting involved. You realize it's been about a half a century ago. But I was looking in a magazine one day, Sports Illustrated, I believe, and it had opposite the story, there was a full-page ad. I think it was a photograph, but it showed 2 figures walking away from you, walking down a path. And obviously one was a man, tall, and the other one was a boy, young. And the man was looking down at the boy, and the boy was looking up at the man, and the man had his hand on the boy's shoulder. And the only print on the page said something like, "A man never stands so tall as when he stoops to help a child." Big Brothers. And that impressed me. I mean, I thought about that, and I was single at the time, and living alone, and I thought I've got time, I've got the opportunity. That's something I'd like to do. And there was no Big Brothers program in Knoxville. Now, along about that time, Bo Schaefer, who was in the Kiwanis Club, and Bo and I were both single, and we were running around a good bit together and doing things that we probably ought not to have been doing. And his club was Kiwanis Club, raised $10,000, I believe it was, for the purpose of starting a Big Brothers program. So I wanted to be a Big Brother before there was a program. And then I mentioned that to Bo when I found out that they were going to do it. And he said, well, you can't be a Big Brother until we get the thing going, and so I want you to help me get it started. And so you're on the board of directors. And so that was the first step. He drafted me on the board of directors. And then we hired a part-time boy who was with the Boy Scouts of America. They were starting a inner city scouting program just for inner city kids. And we found this young man. He said, well, I can work on a Saturday afternoon or something and try to do it. And he did. And he got Bo a little brother. They matched. And I think maybe I got the second little brother, either the second or the third. But of course, he didn't have any time. Bo's club had given him $10,000 to get going, and every day that passed, well, the money was going down. And so Bo realized that we had to get a permanent, full-time person. And so Bo and I interviewed people for that, and Bill Tapp was an applicant. And Bill impressed us that he would do the work, and he loved the idea and everything. And Bo says, of course, your first job is you got to go out and raise money for your own salary, because we're about out. You don't have any. Didn't seem to bother Bill. He said he'd do it, and so he took the job and took off with it. And I'd say, of course, it's grown many, many, many times from that, but it wouldn't have gotten there without Bill's start. We used to, I lived out on a farm and had horses, and Eddie loved the horses and loved to ride. So the most often activity we did was go horseback riding together. But we had us a rule. Didn't stick to it, as you might guess, 100%, but somewhat. An hour of work for an hour of play. If we're going to go horseback riding for an hour, we're going to rake the yard or mow the yard or build a fence or something, either at your house, your mother's house. We'll clean the gutters or anything for an hour at her house, or at my house, or volunteering somewhere. But we're going to work an hour for an hour of play. And we did that. We didn't do much at his house because he wanted to come out to the farm all the time. And so we built fences and worked on the barn and things. And we did a lot of horseback riding. We did a lot of whitewater rafting, the Koi and Hawassi, and to this day, in fact, I called him last week, and he's saying, I still hope I'm going to get back up to Knoxville this summer sometime, and we can go rafting. So he's when he comes in here, he counts on going rafting. He counts on doing. Now he's 50-something years old. He's going to retire. He's a year away from retirement. But he's still wanting to do the same things that we started doing 50 years ago. I don't think I can take much credit for personally doing influencing Eddie. But you don't know what you're just exposing them to. He saw work opportunities, education opportunities, earning opportunities, growing opportunities through those activities, and he was just exposed to them through that part of his life that he wouldn't have been. Well, I don't understand me being picked for the Wall of Honor, but I appreciate it. Somebody thought that was worthy, and no, I would just think of the different organizations and programs that I've known about in my 80-something years of living. I think the goals and the accomplishments of Big Brothers and Big Sisters would rank right up there near the top.